deck hum goes crooked. A thin sound threads the pipework fine as hair pulling tight. Sweat beads on my lip and slides the wrong way, up toward the lumen strip that shivers and smears itself long as a prayer banner. My wrench, warm from my palm, twitches against the nut like a fish. My reflection in the valve housing lags my mouth still when the reflected one moves, syllables hitting late. The Vox above me coughs twice and holds its breath. Minutes slip sideways, but not many. Enough for a bell to falter and the smell of hot insulation to turn sweet like meat left too near a shrine candle. Osric is on the next coupling, 4 bolts down, whistling the charge room march through his teeth, a wet steek that has irritated me enough to learn the rhythm by heart. I don't look at him, because if I do, I will see the smear of him in the valve cover and it will be a step behind or a step ahead of the Osric beside me, and my stomach has no room for that. Hold it steady, I tell myself out loud, and my voice goes into the metal like a nail. There is no movement under my feet except the breathing of the ship, and then that breath catches again. The bosun's chain rattles at the far hatch. Rattlings, harness up, web on. His eyeglass lenses spit a quick, hard glint along the corridor. There's oil under his nails like always. He smells of incense char from the morning service at the shrine down past the mess. He doesn't shout more because he doesn't have to. The chain on his fist says it for him. We get our crash web off the hook and into our hands as one. My belt is already weight-worn for the buckles. I can fasten them blind, and the steel ball-bearing slides in my gut anyway. I bite the litanies through my back teeth. Blessed is the beam, blessed is the bolt, blessed are the welds that hold. Something skitters along the lumen strip above like the ghosts of roaches. The lumen flicks and all our faces ripple a little. Osric swallows his whistle mid-note. "Is that the motors doing it?" he says, too bright. "It's the warp," Morella says without looking. Morella is the one with the blunt fingers and the shorn scalp tattooed with the sigil of her section. Morella's words don't shake even when her hands do. She straps the crash web around the cable spool bolted to the bulkhead as if she has all the time in the world. "Vox is quiet," the bosun says in the tone that means the opposite. He untangles the line with his palms and nods at our harness clips. "Anchor, stand by to brace, and keep your eyes on your work." The Vox coughs again and lets up a little thread of whispers, not words, but the idea of words, like someone reading with a mouthful of salt. The sound makes my molars ache. Another cough. The whisper starts talking through the bones of the corridor ribs and stops again. We anchor. The web catches with a soft drawn breath as I test it. I put my hand to the flange I had been tightening and bless it again, quick and mean. The metal tells me nothing at all. I feel the breath of Morella at my shoulder when the deck hum goes crooked again. It's as if the ship sank in a gentle swell and did not come up. We are in that suspended place after a fall and before the ground. "Brace," the bosun says. My hands close on the webbing. Around us, the machine prayers, charmed parchment stitched along the bulkheads. You'd have dampened their curling like old leaves that have been breathed on. The ink looks wetter than it should be. I hold my breath because sometimes when the rustling belches wrong, you can taste it. It's not rust this time. It is something like the inside of your cheek when you bite it and your own taste floods you. The light goes a little browner. Osric's knuckles look like someone else's bones slipped into his hands. We have drilled for this. We drill because drill is what makes you smaller than the ship, and the ship is big enough to carry you. We are nails tapped into its timber. There is a prayer for not splintering. "Bless our shipskin, bless our bones against the grind," Morella says, not softly. But as if the metal wanted to hear it, the hum hiccups. The Vox breathes in and does not exhale. There's a moment when the world is too quiet. Even a void ship has heartbeat. Even silence has a skin, this is not that. Then the saints glass over the junction box sweats. Clear beads on painted eyes, they run upward. I count bolts because counting is a rope to hold. 9 and 9 again, and the 10th refuses to sit still. Slides out of my count and back toward 9 as if numbers were slippery. I press my tongue to the roof of my mouth and make a noise so low only my jaw knows it. Gellar. The bosun begins and the vox hammers into life with a shout of machine babble that rips a strip off the air and slaps it against my ear. Someone out of sight says, "Hold the field." And then that word I won't think passes like a cold hand through my skin and the bones of the ship stretch, or maybe that's my ribs. In the world buckles not with force, but with a wrongness like a lie told too close to your face. The warp is always on the other side of the hull plates, less than a handspan through. We all know it the way you know the second day after a tooth is pulled. That open place, a taste of metal that is only your blood. My mouth fills with that taste and I spit into my palm and it looks too dark and thin and doesn't bead like spit should bead. It runs uphill to the lumen strip and vanishes into the light. The bosun's chain clanks like prayer bells. "Eyes on your work," he says again, steady as a deck nail, and I drop my stare back to the flange that hurt my palm and the wrench I've known longer than I've known my bunkmate's last name. There's a children's song we sing when we scrub rust, 3 notes up and down to keep the pull steady. Osric starts it and stops because the lumen strip crawls into his mouth when he opens it and he closes it quick. We do not look up. The smell goes sweeter, sweet enough to make swallow the wrong way around. My throat tries to crawl away. I swallow hard to nail it where it belongs. My eyes do the same. Then the light comes apart like thin skin gashed by a dull blade. Not off, not dark. It tears. The noise isn't noise. It is pressure without wind. My fingertips go hot. My nails brittle. My name, both syllables, derive themselves from the softness of my tongue to the metal of the deck and lie there like pulled teeth. Osric's wrench vanishes out of his hand without moving, leaving only the pull of him braced against it. And he is left with his grip on the air and his tendons showing like cables. He looks surprised and because the way the hurt comes is too slow to catch. He opens his mouth. He does not scream. Something else uses that idea before he can. The webbing bites my hips and my shoulder hard enough to remind that I have a body. The unsound pushes at the eyes of my skull from inside. The corridor flexes, eyes painted on prayers swelling, mouth shapes where the grates are. The grate under Morella's boot shows teeth for a moment, bone white like the porcelain of a broken mug. Then is a grate again with oil stripes and our boot scuffs and the number stenciled on it, which refuses to be the number it is and rotates between 3 in a shape that pretends to be 8. On the edge of the frame that holds the junction box, a thin, bright knot light moves, a cut edge in the air. It spreads sideways without getting wider. The paint cracks not outward but inward, and lines falling toward that slice. The world pulls like a soaked rope through a ring. There is a breach, but not the kind the bosun drills us for with water bags and blacked-out masks and weeping alarms. This one is the kind the chaplain does not speak about with the lights on. The kind for which there is a song you sing in your head and not with your mouth. I say that song in my head and in my tongue and in my hands, and the wrench stamps the deck, stamps the count, 9 in a 9, and my teeth try to count too. Morella moves with the slow precision of someone far away. She steps toward the manual lever by the hatch, the one that can haul the bulkhead teeth down if the auto spirits go stupid. Her crash web snatches and she has to twist and the metal bites into the meat over her ribs, lining 8 small moons. Her lips are moving, but the words are sliding out of her like fish and falling on the floor. They don't have shadows. "Hold!" the bosun yells. The word is a line thrown and I put my hands around it. Osric, Osric. His hands are still in the shape of holding, but they are empty and his eyes are full. There is a sound from him like plates racked wrong. His skin lifts off his face as if it's thinking about leaving. Then it decides to stay. His fingernails lengthen with no fingers under them and curlicue like metal shavings, then snap. Something moves in the cut in the air. It is not something. It is the idea that the inside of your face has the wrong number of planes. It leans, and the bead of sweat on my lip tries to look at it and can't. The shipskin moans. It is a long sound, animal-like and made of iron. The bosun throws his chain hand, and the chain hits Morella's crash web and catches her forward, the link singing. She slams her shoulder into the lever, wraps her whole small hand on the cold iron and puts her weight. The lever complains and gives a finger's breadth. "I can't," she says, and the consonant is torn off her like a strip of paint. "You can," the bosun says, and his voice is the same voice he uses when a valve refuses. This is the cut. The breach opens not out from the slice, but all along the length of the corridor in thin lines that weren't there and now are, above and below and through, and we are inside a closing fist made of air. The pressure is not pressure. It does not flatten. It lifts. It takes the hair on my arms and my tongue and the skin on the insides of my eyelids and wants them otherwise. I speak the words that make my teeth the teeth I was born with and not somebody's little trophies. My right knee lets go and finds again. The crash web keeps me nailed. "Close it," the bosun says to Morella. His face is in lines I have never seen on it, simple as rust. His chain knows what to do without him. She leans and groans, and the lever comes a finger more. Osric is talking now. He is saying something low and careful, the way he speaks to a stripped screw. Maybe he is telling the screw he does not mind if it breaks as long as it breaks now. The word he says now is not now. It is then. It collides with the breath I have not taken and skids. Something crosses in front of me. It is not a shadow. It is a deeper cut in something that was uncut. The prayer parchment along the seam of the bulkhead takes flame and goes out without burning. He leaves no ash, leaves only blank space where the words used to be. For an eye blink, the blank is a mouth. It licks at the bead of Morella's blood hanging in the air where her rib met the lever. And the bead whips flat like a ribbon and curls again, blue as river oil. I do not look at it. I hold my work. I tuck my chin and yank my wrench and feel the nice stupid turn of the coupling. I can work inside anything. Bolt, beam, weld, hold. The lever drops a tooth width and the companions above us crash down another notch. Somewhere off the corridor a cry curdles not because of pain, but because it did not come from a throat and wants to. "Go to the shrine," the bosun says toward the ceiling, "at nobody we can see, or maybe to the ship." Light, light, light. The vox gags up numbers that do not exist and then whispers in a voice that is very calm. In a woman I have never met saying, "Hold your posts. Do not look outward. Close hatches, close arteries, keep your lanterns lit." Morella laughs, a bark, and the air eats the laugh first and then gives it back to us from behind, as if someone were mocking us with our own sounds. The lever squeals and then leaps the inch it has needed. The bulkhead teeth thud. The hatch's lip bites onto its seat. The sound is wet. The air splits the tear holds, then knits with a lurch that throws my teeth against each other. The lights shudder and turn their proper tired yellow. The prayer parchments go back to being old paper. In and Osric coughs and hefts his wrench again, and there is blood in his spit. But it makes a normal round bead that we all watch hit the deck and roll a handspan and stop as if the floor were level. The idea of Osric's hands returns to his hands. He looks at them. He laughs once a little, and then opens his mouth to say the name of the Emperor and vomits up a piece of thin wire the length of his palm, blackened, and it twitches once and goes still. Morella leans on the lever, forehead to the cold iron, and breathes into it as if it were a child and could be comforted. The bosun has the head of his chain in his teeth and is using both hands to dog down the dogs on the hatch, turning the bolts till their threads squeal. The squeal is the best sound I have ever heard. We do not quit because the ship has not quit us yet, and there are other hatches in other ribs and other webs of men and women biting their levers with their teeth. The unlight is down the corridor still behind the next curve and the next, and we are scabbed shut here but not everywhere. Next, the bosun says, and his face is washed clean of anything but the job in front of him. He points at me with his chin and then at the junction box. Kill the bleed. Purge 4. Realign. I do not know what the announcing section is doing. I do not know if the great towers at the heart of the ship are singing or screaming. I know the 4 toggles of the bleed off in this junction because I have sweated my imprint into them, and I could find them blind if the light in the world twisted like a wet rag again. I lunge for them against the web's pull, and my hand lands on the first, and the first is hot. My skin sticks a beat and I pull it. The spirit in it squeals and gives 2, 3. The 4th resists with a feeling like biting down on old bread, sour and wrong. It pops and a jet of air like a tongue whips my cheek. The Vox is speaking again, real, a man with a burr in his voice from a broken nose. You there at 14 Redice report, sealed, the bosun says, and taps the mouth of the Vox with the links of his chain by way of salute. The chain never leaves his hand. All sections maintain litany, seal when you can. The smell settles down out of sweet and into pipe smoke and hot dust. Somewhere our ship has closed its eyes and somewhere it has opened them. My stomach remembers gravity. I breathe. It scrapes. We unclip in a small grudging chorus of buckles. Our bodies tell us we're small and soft. Even that was almost enough to make us scatter like vermin, but the ship held enough of its world together, and the bosun is still there, and Morella has her cheek on iron. We keep moving because stopping makes room for the thing that lives in a stopped place. Others, the bosun says. He doesn't have to say the rest. I take the spool line. Osric takes the kit with the seals and the prayers. Morella reaches for her sling, but her fingers stutter, miscount their bones, and she uses her other hand. She lifts the kit and tucks it into the angle of her elbow and kisses the stamped tin lid as if it might help it remember itself. Her breath fogs it, and the fog goes up and takes a moment to decide to go down after all. We go. The corridor beyond the hatch is short and then long and then sensible if you do not blink. And the deck log numbers on the bulkhead are fine until they are not the 5 and 5 red uncurls and becomes a S and then a hook and then a nail scratch. Then it is a 5 again if I look at the scuffed place beside it instead of at the thing itself. We do not look at the saint's glass. Their painted eyes are busy. At 11 black, there is smoke like paper burned under a cup. There is a rating in the corner with his knees up and his head on them, telling himself his serial over and over. The serial is walking away from him and he clutches at it like a coat sleeve. Morella takes his hand and puts the serial back in his mouth, and his lips move like someone feeding a baby. At 9 yellow, there is just a hinge. The door remembers being a door after a breath. We dog it down with Osric's hands working angry and quick. He is good at being angry. And anger is a shape that doesn't easily warp. At the starboard bend, there is a picture painted by some bored hand of the arch flag of our deck, a laughing skull with a bolt in its jaw. Today, the jaw is closed and the bolt is gone, and I do not know if that is because of what we are in, or because the person who painted it was braver than me and chose to make it that way. I salute it anyway with 2 fingers and a mutter and feel like a fool until my throat decides I am not. We come up on a hatch that refuses every name we call it. It is a black fold like cloth dipped in night and hung wrong. The numbers over it are too thick and their paint doesn't dry. The faith paper is sodden without wet. The air in front of it has that taste again, like your own mouth gone crooked. That's the actual, Osric says, which is not an actual word you use for a hatch. Morella's jaw sets. Light, she says. We have the lamp from the shrine station 2 bends back, the one that burns sacred oil and spits smoke that tastes like tongue sugar and iron. It's got a cracked glass and a stem to carry it. It is not much. It is a thumb in the eye of a deep wind. The bosun takes it and hands it to me. My stomach, which thinks it knows me, lifts a hand to say excuse me and then sits down. My fingers remember how to hold a lamp. The callous points hit the worn circled places. The thing in the air does not love the light. I do not either. It is a little ugly, this lamp. It sweats. It has soot on it. It cries wax as if in empathy with the saint's glass, and its crack gleams like an old wound. It is mine now. Hold steady, the bosun says. We go forward, and the light makes a wall of yellow that is only my arm length. The wall is not solid, but it is warmer than the breath trying to dig inside my ears. The fold of hatch shudders, not as if a wind moved it, but as if it changed its mind and then changed it back. I reach. My arm looks long in the light, longer than my arm is, like a bad story told about my arm by someone who has only seen one in a book. The knuckles go first. They touch. The surface is thin and it behaves like a mouth wanting to smile. The hairs on my wrist rise up and all reach for the same point near the bone. I put the lamp closer. The air ripples and goes stiff under the light. It is as if we are baking a scab hard on top of something wet that would rather keep wet. Morella slips her purging hook under the lip of the hatch while it is deciding, and the bosun puts his weight behind it, and Osric puts his anger, and the hatch makes a sound like a child lying and then decides to open. On the other side is not worse. On the other side is just more corridor and a crewman named Lico with a strip of sacrament paper stuck to his cheek like a drunk's cut plaster, blinking at us as if he has been underwater. He has 3 fingers on one hand and maybe once had more. It does not look like pain. The blood is dry, or it is black paint. I do not look long. How long? He says. Do your work, the bosun says. Every number of long is too long or not long enough. We do not say much. We are instruments. We close and open where the ship asks us to. We light where light fails. We drag the reality of our routine over the top of the teeth and hope it catches. It often does, and the ship likes to return to itself if you give it rope to follow. Sometimes it does not. At 7 Green, we find a woman whose body thinks it is a coil of hose, and back along the bend, someone taps at the deck from underneath with the even patience of a man counting out a hymn and not knowing he is counting. Hours and minutes are wrong. We could be here 10 breaths or 40. The bosun's watch has lost its face. The hands are in a puddle at the bottom like 2 fish. My own head has rooms I don't go in while we work. There is one with a red-marked wall where the words for my mother live. There is one for the litany we use when we weld. There is one with the picture of my bunk that never lies flat. I lock their doors with my teeth. The ship hums. Sometimes it hums a tune that gets under the door and scratches at me. I hum back. We dog hatches until my forearms say they are full of broken glass. Morella's nail beds bleed. Osric has a bruise on his cheek in the shape of a coupling. He does not ask how he got it. The bosun's chain picks up other people's blood as he works and pays it no mind. We find a place where the deck buckles into small dunes and then flattens when we ignore it. We find a place where every picture of the Emperor is of a different man. We face them all as we pass and nod. You do not get to choose how help arrives. There is a point where we think, all 4 of us, that this might be the bend where the light runs out and the mouth opens and asks us for our teeth. I think it, and Osric says it with his shoulders. And Morella puts her thumb on the crack in the lamp glass. And the bosun's back does not bend. And the lamp is warm on my wrist, and the warmth is normal. And the normal is a stone to step on, and we do. After an amount of time, the ship's breath hits a regular place. It is not the same as before. It is a new regular with a low hitch in the inhale and a roll in the exhale. The light whores itself back to a steady, ugly yellow. The saint's glass looks like glass again, with streaks that are just hand grease. The Vox says, "Hold for now," in the voice of a man who has held his own guts in his hands and minded them like bread dough and put them back and tied them. We are at a junction I have worked in before and will again. The paint flakes with a pattern I recognize, a flake like a bird, a long scratch like a nail. Osric's breath evens enough that he whistles his march without thinking under it. It stutters once in the sticky place, then smooths. "You," the bosun says, and looks at me for longer than he looks at things. His eyeglass lenses are almost clean. "Yes," I say. "Hold this," he says, and puts my hand on the dog of the hatch we just set. "Hold this until the tick of that," and he jerks his chin at the pipe that knocks when the coolant line aligns properly. The pipe is knocking wrong, 1, 2, 3, 4 with a skip. "Hold through the skip." "Yes," I say again, because there are not many other words that work. He goes 2 strides and turns and comes back. He touches my shoulder with the weight of a single link of chain. "Eyes on your work," he says, and goes again. Morella squats with her back against the ribs and drinks from the flask we are not supposed to have. She offers and I drink, tongue numb, and do not question the taste. Osric sits on a bundle of cable and wraps one of his nails in a strip of prayer paper because it keeps trying to be longer than it is supposed to be. He looks like a boy for a moment, a boy who stole a tool and took it apart to see how it works and found himself with pieces in his lap and a skinning coming. He taps time with the toe of his boot. The toe scuffs a little prayer into the grime. It says, "Hold." I hold. The dog is hard and cold and presses a blue coin of chill into my palm that stays when I lift it away for a breath and then goes away like a little faithful leaving. The pipe knocks. The skip grins its gap at me like a cracked tooth. I set my jaw against it. The deck hum is almost what I know. The taste in the air is pipe and ash and us. When the skip comes, the hatch tries to shrug itself open because that is what the ship is. In it is alive. It shifts and sighs and turns in sleep. Today, sleep is dangerous. I put my shoulder into the wheel and set my boots. The webbing bites the bones high in my hips again and grounds me into the plate, and the plate presses back and says, "Here." The metal remembers me. I am a thumbprint on the same spot as before. It helps. I do not think about the cut, which may be just around the next bend, testing, feeling along the seams of what we call true. I think about the weight of this hatch and the sound of my own breath and the knocking of the pipe and the count I have punished into my hand. 9 and 9 and 9, and then the last one that tries to run. I step on its foot and make it stay. The skip goes by like a cough swallowed. The hatch teeth settle as the pipe comes right. I do not let go for another 3 breaths in case. The lamps along the seam glitter tiredly. The flake of paint in the shape of a bird decides to be a bird again and not an eye. The bosun nods once at me when he passes as if I were a piece of equipment that did not jam. It is the kindest thing he could do. I am still holding when the deck hum sharpens reluctantly and the Vox says in a cracked whisper, "For the moment," and then stops as if that were the unity we were allowed. The oil on the dog has crawled into the pattern of my palm. It shines there, lit from the side by the ugly lamp sweat. I watch the bead gather at the crook of my thumb, heavy and clear, and not go anywhere at all.